Welcome, guys. This is Kimberly Speaking, and today we're going to celebrate Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I have three special guests with me here today that are going to tell their personal journeys and how they have been affected by this thing that has been plaguing us, and we really have to get information out here and awareness so that we can fight this fight together, guys. Our guests today are Stephanie Carter, who is a huge advocate for breast cancer, and she was also her sister's caregiver who had cancer. So we want to talk to you today about her journey and the things that she went through, and she's going to give you guys some information on how you cannot go through what she went through. Our next guest is going to be Shalmar Johnson, who is diagnosed with cancer as well, and we are believing that she's going to be our next survivor, and we're speaking that in faith. And last but not least, we have Latasha Mims, who is also a breast cancer survivor, and they're going to give you their story on today. So, Stephanie, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey?
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Good evening, everyone. I am coming to you today from a caregiver's perspective of how breast cancer has impacted my personal life. So just to give you a little tidbit of how this journey started, my sister Patrice, I know that there is, God does things for a reason, and I had just dropped my son off to school at Hampton University, and she was in Norfolk. So she said, let's hook up and go to the beach. So we did. Had a great time. Fast forward to the day I came back home, which was the day she's going to get her phone call about a lump that they had biopsy for her. So when she calls me, she tells me that she was diagnosed as it being cancer. And I almost had a wreck. I was so emotional. I started crying. And the one thing that she said to me was, I'm going to be okay. Don't cry. I'm just fine. And I said, okay. I was like that. I was so emotional. I said, so do you want me to come there? And she said, yes. So she said that as if I had asked a really dumb question. And I immediately flew on over once I told my boss I got to go see about my sister. And from that moment, I decided I was going to be by her side to do whatever it was that I needed to do to be supportive. But, she was trying to be all tough and everything, but she did break down once we had prayer regarding her journey with her new diagnosis. And then so when she wiped her tears, she said, so now what, y'all? I said, so now we're going to find out what's next. So that was how she got diagnosed. And I will tell you this, she did get her mammogram. She's never missed her mammogram. This time, it was in lymph nodes under her arm, and there were about 13 that she had to have removed. And she had her regular mammogram that it missed the cancer that was in the breast, but they found it in her breast, in her clavicle, in her chest, I guess breastplate, and in her neck. So that was categorized as stage 4 metastatic HER2, and that was the diagnosis we got once they finished doing all those tests and everything. So that was how we got our diagnosis. Now, the hardest part, you guys, once she told me that, is trying to remember that I'm there to support her. But, the struggle for me was, how do I have my emotion? How can I be allowed to feel and to mourn that diagnosis, because that thing ripped my heart out. And I had to learn to go ahead and cry and be who I was. And then there were times when she would jump off the table and come and comfort me right there in the doctor's office when I should have been trying to be strong for her. But the hard part, for me being her caregiver is watching her suffer through all those surgeries and going through the healing process. One of the things that did happen that was pretty huge, she did have to get one of her breasts removed. It was in her left breast, and they had to do a mastectomy for that one. And but through all of this, she smiled. She was positive. She kept the faith all along. So I decided that's what I needed to do for her. I was strong. I let her cry if she needed to cry. She let me cry if I needed to cry, because I felt like I was having the same diagnosis because I felt almost all of her pains. I declare it was so much my pain. I took that on for her as much as I could. And I will also say that after each surgery or every process that we went through, I was literally there by her side. She had 2 kids that were really afraid and they couldn't be there, but I was there. She had a nickname for me, Pit Bull. She called me her Pit Bull.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the person that, this is what we're going to do. You got to go to this appointment. No, you can't eat that. You got to take this. I was there for all of those things, you guys, and it was the absolute hardest thing. But I will tell you this. Her journey taught me to ensure that I got my mammogram, and I'm an advocate to speak about other ladies getting their mammograms, and even when the mammogram may miss it, do your self-checks, because if I can back up a little, she kept telling me to feel this thing under my arm, and I would say, I don't want to feel your armpit. And she said, come on, something isn't right. So one day I did touch it, and y'all, when I felt it, I jerked my hand back, and that's when I said, girl, you better get to that doctor. So had she done her self-check, and your self-check is not going to be just, just feeling the breast. You need to feel the masses around the breast, because cancer has that perimeter, and it could grow outside of that, and it could be breast cancer, but it can be in your lymph nodes. So that's where hers started. Even though there was a small spot in the breast, it was in the lymph nodes. So just make sure you are definitely getting your mammograms, doing your self-checks, and don't hesitate to ask any questions if you feel that your doctor is not, telling you everything. You jump up and you say, hey, this is what I think I have. What do you think? Because even me, I just had my physical the other day. I told my doctor I'm feeling some sharp pain shooting through my right breast, and he felt it, and he said he didn't feel anything, but I have my mammogram scheduled in a couple of weeks. So my last thing that I would like to say is make sure you are getting your mammograms and getting your self-checks done to make sure that, that, because preventive measures are the things that can catch. If you catch it soon enough, you might not have to go the journey like my sister did in my story. But she did live almost 6 years with a stage 4 diagnosis, and that was because we did everything that the doctors advised her to do, and because I was her pit bull, it was an easier process for her. So thank you for letting me share a little piece of my journey about my sister Patrice, but that's my KP, is what I call her, Karen Patrice. She's my KP. I was her pit bull. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Stephanie. That was just heartfelt. I've been a caregiver in my career field, actually, as a nursing assistant, and I know, caring for people, it takes a toll on you as well. So, and I know you feel like you had to really be strong for her, and it was really affecting you, and she was being strong for you, and that happens sometimes. But that is just, it's so awesome that she had you there, and having a strong support system probably makes a difference as well. So I'm definitely sure that she was grateful for you and all that you did. And I know you said you were telling me that you had a website that you did an interview advocating for breast cancer. Do you want to share that with the people today?
Yes. I am a part of Making Strides. There's a Primex Pink Warrior team that my sister was on that team, and she also walks in Susan G. Komen as well. So one of the things that I was certain to continue to keep going in her name and in her honor was to participate and continue to raise money for those 2 organizations. The Primex Pink Warriors, the young lady that's the head over that group, she asked me one day to share my story, which was only going to be a 1-minute, video of me speaking of her about my journey and why I support that particular initiative. So it did take me about an hour to record that 1 minute, and I actually went over about maybe 15 seconds, but they went ahead and posted it anyway because they were excited to hear how I continue to support the initiative. Although I lost my sister, she did die in May of last year. It was May the 6th last year, and that part was ripped right out of my chest. But I know that she didn't no longer have to suffer. But yes, I did speak about her journey on that video. And while I was talking, I actually held up a picture of her obituary because, you guys, it was beautiful. It was pink. Her, and she had her hands up in the air like she was a warrior, like I got this, it's like she was celebrating. And that was a picture we had taken from some other event we were at, and that's the one they used on her obituary. So I was holding it up. I had it framed, and I was holding that up as I spoke for my 1 minute and 15 seconds about my sister Patrice. So yes, thank you for asking about that, Kimberly.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing. That's awesome. So next, ladies and gentlemen, we have Shamar Johnson, who's going to share with us her journey. And Shamar, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. How I was diagnosed. I'm going to go back to 2019. I had my very first mammogram. I did not do regular mammograms like I should have. My mother had always told me to start when I was 40, and I did not. So I did my first one in 2019. Everything was fine. Everything was good. And then March 2020, right when COVID had hit, I had felt a lump in my breast. I was just one day, I guess, feeling my breast for some reason, and I had felt it didn't feel right. So I thought it was like a cyst. And so I'm Googling, like, a cyst, and a picture appeared showing the cyst exactly where I thought it was in my breast. And so my husband was deployed at the time in Kuwait. And so I was afraid to go to the doctors and see what it was without him being here. So when he came home in August 2020, he said, yeah, you need to go get it checked. So I did. I went to go get it checked in November 2020, right around before Thanksgiving. And the doctor, she was like, you need to get a breast. It doesn't feel right. And I said, well, it's a cyst. And she said, no, it's not a cyst. And I'm thinking, like, oh my gosh, what is it if it's not a cyst? And so I did a breast diagnostic right after that, before Thanksgiving, and the results came back. Right into going into December of 2020, right before Christmas, the week of Christmas holiday, the results came back that I had breast cancer. And so I was like, oh my goodness. So I received another call. I want to back up. So in between December 2020, I originally got a diagnosis of breast cancer, but then they did more tests going into January, and with CT scans and a bone diagnostic, and it came back that it was now in my bones. So now I have cancer in my bones. So I'm like, wow, okay, this is crazy. So by this time, I'm just in shock of everything, and only thing I can say is I was talking to somebody one day a couple months back, and they asked me, did I cry? And I said, no, I was in shock, but my faith that I had just undergirded my shockness. And so by January, going into the month of January 2021, I had went to a doctor's appointment, and my doctor was talking to me about the treatment that I was going to have for this particular, for metastatic cancer, because when they diagnosed me back in December, they had, like, people calling me and telling me, they had everything set up. I was going to do a port and all this. I met with a surgeon, and by January it changed, and it was like, okay, we have to scratch everything. And my oncologist was like, no, we have to do something different. So she was talking about me about doing hormonal therapy, and so that's what I did, which is me taking oral medication every day in 2 shots once a month for my treatment. Everybody's treatment is